Now, more good news. Before I went on my break, I said our experts will be watching like hawks what was going on in Britain, or they should have been. Britain has now fully vaccinated 70% of its adults. 90% of it had at least one shot. Don't you wish we were in that position? Now, of course, that doesn't give people full protection. But the British government said, we're still going to open up. People, yes, they will get infected. We'll accept that because this time many fewer people will get very sick and die. And indeed, it turns out that, yes, there was a huge rise in infections, but not a big rise this time in deaths. Yes, 28 more deaths in one day, which is more than we'd accept for our freedom. But boy, is that way down. And we're going to have to face up to this. How many deaths will we accept to get out of lockdowns? Right now, it seems the answer is not a single one. Not a single one. But there was one other thing I noticed when checking those stats on daily new infections in Britain. Let's look at them again. They've dropped for the last 5 days. These figures I'm showing you have just been updated. Gone down in the past 5 days from about 50,000 to less than 30,000. And here's the thing that makes me go, aha, Britain got that big fall in infections without lockdowns. It's gone the other way. Joining me from London is Brendan O'Neill, editor of the online magazine Spiked. Brendan, great to catch up with you after my break. What conclusions do you draw from this great British experiment?
I think it's working. I mean, that's my hopeful outlook on what we're currently doing. So as you described, the virus has been spreading. It was spreading quite widely a couple of weeks ago when we reopened, but we still took the decision to reopen society, get our freedoms back, take off our masks, end social distancing. All that stuff is now gone. And what's happened more recently is, as you say, cases have fallen. And this is the first time since the start of the pandemic that any country, I think, has brought about a fall in cases that haven't at least coincided with a lockdown or been caused by a lockdown. So that's a radical breakthrough. We have to wait and see if the opening up of society will have an impact. I don't think that will be measured for a couple of days yet. But generally, it's positive. We're learning to live with the disease and we're getting our freedom back.
I would put something even more brutal that in a way that most people don't want to even think about. You've accepted that 28 deaths a day, or whatever the daily death toll may turn out to be, is a small price to pay for the freedom to open up. And Australia's not anywhere near that kind of harsh kind of thinking, but I think we'll need to get there. Brendan, you wrote a terrific column about J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author. She's got the most vile abuse, incredibly violent, sexual abuse, death threats, everything. That's no secret. It's all out there. And that's for saying that transgender women are not women. People think she's so rude that they're being even ruder back to her. Now, whether you agree or not with her position, surely no one can accept the kind of abuse this woman is getting. But as you point out, in the literary world, no one seems to defend her. Now, why is that?
It's really shocking. The argument I'm now making is that the silence from the liberal elite is even worse than the abuse that J.K. Rowling is getting, because the abusers, it's the usual suspects. It's horrible, disgusting people online. They're sending her rape threats, death threats, pornographic images. I mean, really horrible, often misogynistic abuse. Sadly, that's what we've come to expect from extreme identitarians, and that's what's happening to her. But the silence from the literary set, from the political class, from a lot of the broadsheet commentariat, that's really shocking. And it suggests that they've bent the knee, so to speak. They've buckled to the woke mob, and they don't want the woke mob to come after them. And they think if they stay silent, they will be safe. It is utterly cowardly. They know that what's happening to J.K. Rowling is wrong, but they're not speaking up to save their own skins. That's how freedom dies, actually. It dies, as George Orwell told us, when the intellectual elites themselves stop believing in it. So they're behaving disgracefully.
Oh, we've seen this cowardice before from the British literary establishment when Salman Rushdie got the fatwa against him from Iran for insulting the Prophet Muhammad in one of his books. And almost no one stood up for him then. Brendan, about free speech, in Hyde Park Corner in London, devoted to free speech, a woman wearing a Charlie Hebdo T-shirt in defence of the free speech of cartoonists killed for drawing Muhammad. She was stabbed, slashed in the head by someone in a black hoodie, then ran away. Now, we don't know the motive, but this, to me, is ugly, Brendan, and so symbolic of the death of free speech in the West.
That's right. This is a really shocking case. And speaking of silence, once again, not that many people are talking about it yet, which is quite disturbing. This is a woman called Hayton Tash. She is an ex-Muslim. She's now a Christian evangelist, and she wants to convert Muslims to Christianity. Now, I'm sure many Muslims find that idea offensive, as they're well in their rights to do. But she goes to Speaker's Corner often. She's a prominent critic of Islam. And as you say, yesterday she was in Speaker's Corner wearing a Charlie Hebdo t-shirt, making her criticisms of Islam, and she was brutally attacked. She was slashed on the face in a really disgusting way. We don't know the motive. We can make a pretty good guess that she was attacked because of her beliefs. We need to talk about this more openly. The fact that the crisis of freedom of speech is now so serious that someone can be attacked with a knife in broad daylight, presumably for her criticisms of Islam.
Corner devoted to free speech. Brendan, it's shocking. Brendan O'Neill, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.